All right, so there's a lot of different philosophical frameworks or points of view, even traditions, that you could approach the philosophy of work from. Here, I'm going to explain three of them, right? They're not necessarily incompatible, although in certain ways they will be. But depending on which of these frameworks you take most seriously, this can have a huge impact on how you answer questions about the philosophy of work in your own life. All right, view number one, utilitarianism. So utilitarianism has a certain view about what the purpose of work is. The purpose of work is to increase your agency in the world, and for a very specific reason, so that you can maximize pleasure and minimize pain, not just in your own life, but in the lives of people around you. So a utilitarian might say, look, when it comes to work, make as much money as you can so that you can donate to the most effective charities and alleviate as much suffering across the world as you possibly can, right? So there's a utilitarian perspective. The second framework that I want to look at is an existentialist point of view. Now, existentialists think that the purpose of work, and really the purpose of any human activity that you engage in, is to define yourself, to sort of express yourself, and to shape yourself into the kind of person that you want to be. So the existentialist might give you very different advice. They'll say, look, find your passion, whatever that is, even if that means, being an actor who has no money at all, can't donate to like these big causes and alleviate suffering, just whatever it is that you find to be the best sort of vehicle for self-expression, that's the kind of work you should engage in. Now, the view that I take most seriously is the virtue ethical point of view. The virtue ethicist thinks that the purpose of work is to serve your characteristic function as a human being. Now that takes some unpacking. What is your function? Well, it's to rationally engage in the world, to reflectively shape your life, and to contemplate, intellectually, the truth and the most important truths in your life. Along the way, the virtue ethicist thinks, you're going to need to acquire virtues. Virtues are things that allow you to achieve or accomplish this function and to flourish as a person, right? They're not just things like patience and temperance and generosity. Those are all included, though. They're any sort of characteristic human skill that you acquire through habituation in work or wherever that are going to sort of add up to your living a flourishing, happy, thriving human life. Now, these are all really interesting frameworks. And again, we'll take pieces from each one of them as we continue to walk through the main topics in the philosophy of work. But the reason I raised them right at the beginning is because depending on which angle you come to the table with, you might get very different answers to these practical questions. So what should I do for the rest of my life? Well, if you're an existentialist, that answer is going to differ from the one that you would get if you're a utilitarian. So it's really important to have these big frameworks in mind when you start approaching questions about the philosophy of work.